welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Hugh Howey's Wool, which is the first book in the, as you can see, Silo series right up here at the top. And you can also probably see it's now a series on Apple Plus, which I did have a chance to see 1.5 episode prior to finishing this book, which I would say there's another lesson there that sometimes things that can be narratively delayed in a book cannot be in a television series for various reasons. But in any case, this is a favorite genre of mine, dystopian science fiction. And another way you could think about it is speculative fiction. But this is a future in which humanity lives underground, unsurprisingly, in something called a silo. But they don't know why they're there. They don't know who built the silos. And part of that is what makes the story fascinating. You're learning at the same time as the characters are. There's a detective story here, there's a dystopian story. There's also love stories, not just between spouses, but between father and daughter. Our protagonist, if you've seen any kind of trailer for the series, is played by Rebecca Ferguson. Her name is Juliet. And I was a little concerned at the beginning, I'll have to be honest, that when I first started reading it, I got some shades of young adult fiction, some throwbacks to what we saw with the Hunger Games, which I never read those books, but I did see some of those movies, and that didn't hold. The writing only got stronger. I also was worried that our protagonist was going to be cut in the mold of what's so popular among the DEI driven stories these days of the strong, independent boss babe queen who don't need no man. And instead, we got a fully fleshed out, believable protagonist who is strong when she needs to be, vulnerable when she needs to be, and just gives us a one. She's a wonderful hero, and I really got behind her. I think anyone who reads the book will be impressed by her compassion and the way that she conducts herself uh, with everyone, both with her friends and with her enemies. So, what else? What else can I say about this? I don't want to give too much away because it is part of a trilogy. So this first book, Wool, is alluding to a process that has to happen in case someone gets sent out of the silo. As I say, I don't want to talk too much about that. The second book in the trilogy, which I've just started, is about how we got here. So it's a prequel. It takes us back to events before this book. And the third book, I haven't really even looked into it yet, but I imagine it's going to harmonize those two stories together, of the past and the present, and where we get to. But in this first book, you're still dealing with um, why we're here in this underground, and I think that part of the challenge that we face when we think about our future, why do these dystopian books get written, is because something in the zeitgeist is not optimistic about our future. We think that bad things are going to happen in case such a world in which we are going to be forced to live underground because it's toxic to live above ground, and worse, that we won't even know why. That generations um, will have passed who may have known it, but they weren't able to pass that knowledge down. And we do see elements of other dystopian novels, themes where you have the population segregated, yeah, sometimes by different colors, by different roles. So they wear different uniforms, they're in charge of different aspects of the silo: mechanical, farming, administration, and hilariously, IT, which it doesn't take too long for you to figure out that IT is the bad guy, but it does show you where we are in our in in our history, that IT is now a part of the villain, the bad guy in the book, which for any of us who've had problems with our computers before, there's a humorous aspect to it, but there's a very dark aspect too, because they're gatekeeping information, and that's something that we've seen in recent years about different platforms, different websites colluding with governments to say which kind of information is going to be permissible and shared, and which type of information is not permissible and cannot be shared. So I think that's Also, subject to I think Howie is putting that for us to consider: who is gatekeeping our information? How does that information get shared ultimately? And who can you trust? Who can you trust? I do think that we have a bit of a disconnect in that IT does have these far reaching powers, but it isn't at the level of which they can monitor every conversation and have cameras in every hallway. So there is still a bit of plausible space for our characters to have private conversations. Otherwise, obviously, the book would end quickly. You'd have the protagonist being discovered by the bad guys, and that's the end of it. So the narrative urgency that only builds gets me to the end, which once again I don't want to spoil it, but there's a final sequence in this first book in which, even though I know that Howie is putting our character in danger, and even though I know that she's probably going to escape it, I still felt concerned. You need to do this the way that you would scream at scream at a movie if in a horror film and the bad guy's coming around the corner to stab somebody, and you're like, don't open the door. I think I get some of that in this final sequence, which only makes me realize I'm invested in the characters. I care about the story, which once again enforces that it's a good book and worth checking out. And so that's what I'm telling you to do. And that's just a general thing on this channel. I don't tend to review books that I don't want to recommend. I think it's a waste of everybody's time. So in this case, I am recommending this. I am already, as I said, on to the next book in the series. I might review that as well. We'll see. We'll see how you all like this. Traditionally on this channel, science fiction and dystopian books have not gotten a good reception. So if it doesn't get a good reception, I probably won't review the second volume as well, even though I might like it. As always, if you enjoyed what I had to say here, hit like, hit subscribe, join the Patreon. I've also added a new members portion via YouTube where you can join. You can support me on a monthly basis that way, get access to early versions of these videos, ask me questions, suggest books that you want me to review. There is an enormous, enormous list of books that I'm working on. I already love to read about a book a week anyway, but all of the suggestions coming in from you all have only enlarged that list. So I blame myself. I don't blame you all. I asked for this. Also, if you'd like, you can buy the book using the links that I've included in the description. There's also a wish list where you can pick books from my Amazon wish list, send them to me, and I will be at least somewhat pressured into reviewing that book. But until next time, enjoy your reading.